invite my boss, Honorable Yaboabia Samoa, the Director of Communication of the New Patriotic Party, to address the nation through you. We are happy you are here, so we are good to go. Director, please, your people.
Thank you very much, Deputy Director of Communications, National Communications, Mr. Richard Asante Yeboah. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, you are warmly welcome to this Friday's interaction. Last Friday, the interaction was held from the Bono Regional Capital, Sunyani, and was addressed by the General Secretary of the party. He updated the nation on progress of the regional delegates conferences, as well as some of the projects that he had personally seen as he had moved around the country, attending those conferences. Today, we want to look a bit more at the president's position on democracy, protecting democracy. But of course, there's heated public debate surrounding the promotion of the Proper Human Sexual Rights and Ghanaian Family Values Bill 2021. But it is gradually settling into a debate about values. From extremist language against proponents and opponents, many are now moving away from the attacks to arguing their view of what Ghanaian values are and the determination of what constitutes human rights within that value system. Parliament has initiated a consultative process with a call for memoranda, and we are told that over 100 written submissions for and against the bill have been received so far. Even before passage of the bill through Parliament, major lessons in the view of this political party have been learned. The first is that democratic practice is at its best when there is open and free expression of views, irrespective of the accompanying heat. A coalition of civil society advocates, remarkable for reason of being from many sides of Ghana's political divide, including neutrals, who perhaps, but for this matter, may never have found common ground on any public cause, are carrying their views forth with vigor. Having weathered initial hostility as to their position, calmer water is enabling them diversify their options, including possible resort to the Supreme Court. The second lesson we've learned is that everyone must take responsibility and stand up for their views and value propositions, whether such views are popular or not. The broad diversity of input from all facets of Ghanaian society, including but not limited to religious groups, traditional leaderships, academia, the legal fraternity, frontline politicians, media practitioners, homemakers, artisans, and ordinary people facilitated by the media, shows a Ghanaian political public rapidly maturing into the ethos of participation. Ladies and gentlemen, perhaps the biggest winner so far is tolerance and an innate determination to stay the course, beyond and above the usual dramatic polarization of issues into NPP or NDC. It's very, very important that this debate about LGBTQI hasn't degenerated into NPP, NDC as usual. This lesson is reinforced by the history of the 2020 elections. It's a heroic story of many firsts and records made, as narrated by the chair of the Electoral Commission to ECOWAS delegations assembled in Winneba in Ghana. The entire set of activities, from registration to declaration, done in a period of 6 months in the teeth of COVID-19, is remarkable. The major challenge that could have derailed the 8th election in a row under the 1992 Constitution was the preceding year of near-violent disputation whether or not an entirely new register was required for a credible and therefore acceptable election. The global coronavirus pandemic complicated matters as international procurement sources shut down and the naysayers raised legitimate health concerns. Yet, the EC remained firm in resolve and went ahead to deliver perhaps the best organized and most peaceful electoral process ever, saving money and reducing voter turnout significantly by over half. Moreover, it was the first time government on its own had fully funded a national election. Ladies and gentlemen, the object this interaction seeks from the NPP is to ask whether we are developing political values peculiar to Ghanaian democracy and resilient enough to sustain the constitutional imperative of elections every 4 years. On our showing so far, we believe the answer is yes. Participation, free expression, association of similar interests, responsibility for actions, and tolerance of opposing views, all underpinned by free, fair, peaceful, and hence credible elections, protect, institutionalize, and consolidate democracy. This emergent political system, driven by the general tenets of democracy, yet peculiar in practice to Ghana, is what His Excellency President Akufo-Addo represents as he interacts with the world beyond Ghana. Economic nationalism for prosperity can only happen if it is built on solid democratic values, and the world is taking notice. Indeed, President Akufo-Addo has boldly exported the local love for periodic elections to ECOWAS, a recipe he advocates will ensure stability for growth within the sub-region and Africa as a whole. Ladies and gentlemen, the NPP is proud of the president. The NPP believes wholeheartedly in the values the president stands by, and the NPP is asking Ghanaian voters to do the same. Ladies and gentlemen, on the foundation afforded by the common democratic values we are distilling, the NPP envisions a Ghana that is inclusive, knowledgeable, innovative, caring, clean, healthy, fully connected to the information age, balanced, and disciplined. The NPP desires a country where traditional values connect to the future and the inhibitions within her culture are refined in order to enable prosperity that protects the vulnerable in the community. Under the bold leadership of President Akufo-Addo, NPP is working to get Ghana to a place beyond poverty, petty political violence, and economic strangulation. Economic strangulation is illustrated by the following quotation from paragraph 32 to 34 of the budget statement for the year 2000. The year 2000, read by then NDC Minister for Finance, Honorable Kwame Pepra. Paragraph 32, and I quote, although the volume of exports of cocoa beans rose by 3% above the 1998 level to 336,043 tons, the average price fell by 12%. He produced more and yet he earned less. Paragraph 33. Despite a 9% increase in the volume of gold exports, the corresponding value of exports rose by only 3% over the 1998 level because of a significant drop in the average world price. Paragraph 34. Timber exports. The volume of exports rose by more than 4% to 433,000 cubic meters, but the rise was offset by a fall in average price. This is what we are still contending with. Even as we strive to increase production of our tradable raw materials, the prices keep falling. Oil, Ghana's most recent addition to its export portfolio, is about to suffer the same fate as the world moves towards cleaner energy, reducing investments in oil exploration and extraction in line with reducing demand. How then are we to fund the rising socioeconomic needs of our relatively young population? How do we sustain the delivery of quality education and health services for all, build roads, access reliable, affordable energy and housing, and create plentiful jobs and incomes? The NPP believes that if Ghanaian political society exerts as much energy and courage as has been invested in seeking and defining basic political values, then we can together leverage the accepted values as a platform for economic liberation. That leap requires visionary leadership. As His Excellency President Akufo-Addo has successfully stated, his vision as leader is to transform the economy and in the process modernize our society, consolidate good governance, and deepen internationally beneficial relations. This vision is expected to provide economic growth with jobs, adequate social capital in the form of quality education for appropriate skills, accessible and affordable health care, and adequate supporting public infrastructure, including energy, potable water, mass transport, communications, shelter, sanitation, and leisure. Inevitably, just as most of the rubbing of minds and actions towards extracting political values tends to rest on NPP and NDC rivalry, same will be expected of the fight for economic liberation. The NPP, under its leaders of the Fourth Republic, believes it continues to implement a vision that is gradually but significantly transforming economic relations and trends within Ghana and our partners worldwide. The international economic partner community assesses our record positively. Indeed, the President's management of COVID-19 and attendant swift economic rebound has earned plaudits worldwide. He has now turned his energies to the restructuring of international financial management structures, stressing the opportunity of post-COVID-19 rebuilding to demand reform of multilateral institutions that appear to fall short of meeting the challenges of today. Former President Kufuor also earned Ghana significant recognition in economic relief with his handling of the highly indebted poor countries initiative. That gave Ghana much needed debt relief, economic expansion to middle income status, access to the competitive Millennium Challenge account, and the discovery of oil in commercial quantity. His efforts at poverty reduction led to the award of the World Food Prize from the Hunger Project in 2011. The Hunger Project describes President Kufuor's economic and educational policies as leading to significant positive changes in Ghana during the first decade of the new millennium. They further describe his success as stemming from a combination of investments in agriculture, rural development, education, and health. In contrast, what is the position of former President and third-time likely candidate Mahama on the tone of political debate and its impact on economic transformation? Very little. He seems to live in a political world of his own, always lagging behind the real issues of the day. The country did not benefit from any clear input from his COVID-19 team. The country did not hear him on the referenda that led to the creation of new regions and the second referendum aimed at multi-party participation in local level elections, which was aborted at the instance of his party. The country is yet to hear him on the raging LGBTQI debate. The country is indeed waiting to hear his thoughts, if any, on the potential of the African Continental Free Trade Area. The country never heard him on President Akufo-Addo's bold steps to stamp out political vigilantism that led to inter-party dialogue refereed by the Peace Council and the passage of legislation against political thuggery. Rather, ladies and gentlemen, he has been harping on and on about 3 or 4 quite dissonant themes on his thank you pre-primaries campaign tour. In spite of evidence to the contrary, he complains about not winning the 2020 presidential election. He complains about abandoned infrastructure, and he complains about violence and corruption. Only losing candidate Mahama and his cabal in the NDC leadership continue to deceive themselves about the outcome of the 2020 elections. The heartwarming record of achievement that the conduct of the election chalked deserves better from one who seeks to lead the country come the next election. In fact, his posture on the election does not edify the sacrifices of Ghanaian voters who queued in defiance of COVID-19 to register and vote. Often, in the same breath, he reminds Ghanaian families of the pain of losing loved ones during post-vote collation by mischievously referring to the regrettable deaths. President Akufo-Addo is on record as saying that not a drop of Ghanaian blood is worth exchanging for electoral victory. And the steps he took against vigilantism literally ensured the most peaceful voting process ever. In the 2020 election, we didn't hear anything about vigilante groups. The BBC described the election as boring, as the Electoral Commissioner has said. True leadership would not focus on the unfortunate and painful situation for political gain to the detriment of national peace of mind. In any event, former President and candidate Mahama has a very poor record in terms of political violence. He is the one who brushed aside the infractions of the Talensi by-election when guns were flowing about, including in the vehicle of his party, National Party chairman. He is the one who tolerated the violent acts of Honorable Collins Dowd's brother, Naba, in the then Brunhafu region. And you all recall the kind of violent acts that were going on in the now Ahafo area. And he was the one who reacted to the incidents of Ayawasu West Wagon by-elections by boasting about his superior credentials relative to election violence, threatening to match the NPP boot for boot. Ladies and gentlemen, his song about abandoned projects is utterly misleading, and he keeps singing it on his thank you tour. Even though he has been answered over and over again. And typical of that is the Saglemi housing mess, where 5,000 homes for 200 million turned into less than 1,000 habitable homes, and the NMSI hospital contracts of $175 million for 7 district hospitals, of which only the Dodua Hospital was ever delivered. $175 million for 7 district hospitals. Only the Dodua Hospital was delivered, and yet he talks about abandoned projects. Ladies and gentlemen, the less said about John Mahama and corruption, the better. His very person has been cited in several matters, including the Embraer purchase investigation by his own president and his identification as government official 1 in the International Airbus bribery scandal. But for the vigilance of HE Vice President Bawumia, Ghana would have lost over $1 billion on a Sipton switch deal. His solution to corruption in the 2020 NDC manifesto is a nebulous scorpion sting approach without any specifics whatsoever. John Mahama cannot be trusted to fight corruption. Presidential aspirant Mahama's record and utterances do not address the key questions of the day. Even though he keeps repeating these assertions on his thank you tour, they do not address the questions, the real questions of the day. Those questions relate to economic and social transformation that addresses the gaps rehashed since 2000 by Honorable Kwame Pepra of the NDC. Ladies and gentlemen, it is on this premise that the NPP is asking to be continued in government beyond 2024 in order to ensure smooth, sustainable implementation of the policies that work for Ghanaians. We acknowledge that we are far from satisfactory solutions for all, but we believe strongly that John Mahama's NDC is not the solution. An unlikely scenario that rejects the NPP because one is disappointed now will lead to utter despair under Mahama's NDC. As we often tell you, he has no plan. You cannot trust him to manage public finances. You cannot trust him to generate employment. You cannot trust him to bridge the infrastructure gap. You cannot trust him to promote the knowledge economy, and you cannot trust him to engage effectively on the international scene. So, we are telling our people, we are telling the people who voted for the NPP that political anger does not solve economic problems. Short-term political anger does not solve economic problems. It is the cool, calm review of the trajectory of development under different regimes and a commitment to the best performing regime that will lead to salvation for the majority of our people. MPP cares. MPP values are consistent with your aspirations. MPP is working steadily to transform your circumstances based on the values of hard work, tolerance, initiative, and trust. MPP is helping Ghana reinvent itself. Who would you rather trust after 2024? A refreshed MPP staying on course with additional programs, or an NDC without a clear vision except hunger for power? In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, we believe in the MPP that true leadership is about pragmatic decisiveness, projecting into prevailing circumstances to achieve the most usefulness for the largest possible number of people, making do with what you have in the interest of the largest number of people. In the Ghanaian context, a strong focus on education, infrastructure, and business can better channel national energy into expansionary employment, incomes, social progress, and positive peer impact. NPP is the party of choice for such investments. Our record proves it in the Fourth Republic. Working with the NPP, we can create a buoyant and prosperous economy and a proud, disciplined, and industrious people at peace with themselves and their neighbors. Thank you very much for your attention.
So that's how we give some rendition in P. Some extra summary so that our local audience would also appreciate what is being communicated. So we bring your mobile phones and other gadgets that you're using to record. Don't pick, just put what you want. Are you good to go? Okay, that's it.
And we are nominating Adolfo Ewie Yeshia Moha. Yenim say Mranwa say a dam Rashibijum IFA LGBTQI. And as I say, dear him. Munina no na wadi ho abogo sa akoba na otwe mienu asemi ensanie. Na de ye MPP for ye hunu ni se sa nkomo no e hya ase na ano ohye pa atem didie ne ensem kese enso ekọ nanim yi a yato ye bo a yetie ye hoyi ase information no bafo se de ye dodo no a ka ne se die na ma ye daso se Ghana fo a nti ye betimi ate agina akase ye gitum ana ye nyintum na womo kase fa ahodie nhihye no sabio ye betimi a kire se mra fa ahodie ene ye tete fa ahodie ene saa ne ye ebo abira ana se betimi agi ato na enim se akopie mra hye bedwamu yi no obia wo ho akwanya so obekasa na yetie no womo ne emra ne ya adwen kasa asofo kasa ehemfo kasa enimdifo kasa twetwo wuro so kasa bi kasa tia binum kro omo kasa tia na se omo de ko Supreme Court akohwe sede omo so ebeka sede ya kapen Supreme Court so ma ho ewo ho kwan se mra mu no omo hwe suban ede na di se ampa se suban bia na ye fa ahodie enhihye ya na nti ko nanim na mom na nenhye mu no nye no ne yepese ye hyede di hu nkomo epense mu yenim se ba bia keka kɔ no ko yiye kire se obi kire na dwen na abamom ne ye fa firi de ekoso ababa ya mienu miense bia ye fa firi mu no ene se ye nyanka asem no kra enwie no ye hu se kamamika bia mamu no ni nyina so de fa pimpa ne se obi abeka no na dwen obi abeka ne bo so asem edu ba bi obi wo ho ana ne bo so asem mu ahyi kakra atem didie ni se bi ebuo enim enso de ekoso ya information ni ko fom na yeti ye ho ase no am ye hu se kabami ka bia mamu no papa ni se asem bi ha obi a won hye ne so won kan kasa bo hye ne yem na be ma na kasa ye to so mienu si ye hu se obi bi kan bia no o kan gina pintin se eya wo nhihye men kwotete obi achi ebi se ya ma akwanya se kasade a na waboa wo ho se obegi atum se o kasa bia no obegina ho ache se ampa ugitum se ye o kasa eno so boa ebi se ebe mi nyina ye hu wo mo ka asem a ye begi atum ye hu wo mo nso mo ka asem a ye nyintum mi nyina aboa maka ma mi nka bi no ejina na ne kase pa a ye hu ene se ye bre ye ho ase e ma ye ho oyonko e de na no to twade kura no a no aye din na nso aka wo de eno no e boa papa na saa de na aba ya manyo se mu mi firi bere a impinu dunkro ye koto aba sebi oman mu ka de na binum yam hihye om kura se ye bebo ye hutuo se de ye twiye kasa na yesi ye beto aba ana ye nto aba yesi ye be ye nwoma foforo ye betwere ye din fufuro ana ye ntwere ye din fufuro na covid bebo mu ma nkrofo kansem kese pa efa abato enso Ghana obiye ni ho otwe ne nsa ebo obiye ni ho ofa atu ebo no yonko yetimi gina ye na so ege ye ho tumu ma ye kwatwere ye din eto aba fefefe bibia ko so bosumi nsia pepepepepe a bi nsida electoral commission adwuma ye no ebi nsida se covid hwina no pa utimi koye sadi ye koto santene kwatwere ye din sa koto santene ekoye verification sa koto santene koto aba yare na antia tese mai mu ha ya de bia wo se boye ho aba so se ampa Ghana ye ka bi mami ka bi mamuo no agina ne na so na eno ne ye ka se saa hwehunu ye hunu free abakose ene ye nyina so efa ka mami ka bi mamuo no ye de saa hoɔden no kɔhye ye botom fa ahodie mu a nke bɛboaye efise de ye haw kɛseɛ pa sɛsɛ ene ye botom sebe ya mebunu nyuma beba sebe ya kwan sem sikasem ye school sem ya pomudi sem sikasem kania mu nyinem kania fango ka sika dan tua dan hu sika ni na no sikasem ndi kwan ba ne be fa so a sesi ya manyo sem yi etini ya ye nyina ye tie ho ase ya ye koye nimu ye betimi di ahoɔden no a na wotwe mienu sɛ ahoɔden pa akɔ LGBTQ menya ahoɔden wa wo nkrɔfoɔ ni abere papa bɛde ne yɛde saa ni bere no akɔhyɛ ye botum fa ahodie sɛm mu ne yɛtimi apagya ye nhyehyɛ ya ɛfa edwuma sɛm ɛne sɛ ahokyerɛ ɛbɛkɔfɔ ɛno ne yɛ ka sɛ wɔsese hwɛ a Npp efisi ye share Fourth Republic yasi aban bia ba ye Npp bia ye boye ho modern wo kwan anuasa bebre so a ye di siesie mani kakra beduru ba bi no obehunu se ye kurade no mu a ye tumpon ekoye nim esiesie adwuma sem esiesie school sem esiesie hospital sem esiesie akwan sem esiesie bibia chen NDC fo no omampanyi kufo baaye de obeto oturo kan otimi de yekɔ hipik ntempa eyi yefiri mu amfie nwɔtwe no opagya yefiri hipik ne kyese na yebubu kodwo tɔ ye da hospital ye di nsu asi yeso so mampanyi pagya yi mu kɔ mede income ansa na ofiri hɔ akɔ millennium challenge account ba so na dwuma pa oye nti onya bi ba Ghana ɔsan nya afango emaye ansa na wɔkɔ na dwuma ho ani so nti oji nkunimdia bodin kɛseɛ bi pa ɛwɔ amanɔne ansa na ɔda nneɛma na nado nso ɔno nso yɛ Npp ni a ɛnɛ yɛ nyinaa nim ɛkwan otimi de yɛfa so ɛfa covid a nyame nkyaadeɛ ɛne wiase afa na nyinaa gye tum sɛ adwumadi odi ne covid ho akandi a odi yɛ no ɛdam fua ɛno nti na nɛ yɛn economy no pagya ntɛntɛntɛntɛntɛm prom afiri covid mu kyɛn ewiase afa na bebre na se eba ka bima minka bi eba amanyo sɛm a bibia na Npp NDC ne yɛ de afei so na eba botom no nso saa na tie o se yɛ de fei so se yɛ de politics ne fei so economy so o se yɛ de fei so nti wo sisin de omampanyi kufuo ne na na do yɛ na wo hwɛ de NDC fo betimi ayɛ ɛno ne yɛ ka sɛ wo hwɛ mu pa owura jomama a wadi akonwa bi pɛn a wapre dibre adi nkuguo a wo san apre sɛ dibre no ne nanti a wo nanti sesi ne kasa mu no bibia nkyerɛ sɛ ɔmo wɔ akwanya ɔmo wɔ ene so ade hunu a ɔmo betimi apagya yeboto fa ahodie ɛde akɔ animu yɛntie ne nka kwan bia so a ɛkyerɛ sɛ ɔbaa sɛbe yɛ adwuma sɛm obetimi asi factory one district one factory esiburu wɔ ha no a yɛtɔkɔ so sie no ontimi nkyɛn de commander ba akopɛ no ɛyɛ yɛ ɔkɔkra asi kyerɛ de bɛkyerɛ sɛ hɔ no wɔfetee no ontimi enye bibia ɛkyerɛ kwan ɔde school bɛfa so free SHS ebesi nɛ ontimi nkyerɛ yɛn sɛ ɔbaa obetwam ana kwan ɔbɛfa so obenya sika atuaka wɔnam na ɔse ne hospital osi yɛgya ne wurem yɛaka sɛ hospital yɛnya ne wurem na mmom no bosia ɔbɔɔyɛ no
so the basic hospital went to me and see on no jari drum any yaba any ye hunsi kasem yi ne asiesie sabe de akofo de ja no kramfie watwe went to me and see wo hwe affordable housing de akofo de ja omo anko ho kura ene omo ade ka so omo koye nso omo de sikasem koto parliament anim e ma ye nyina ye mra hye bedwam e che wo bosia 200 million se omo fa nkoye adwuma bosia ye nyina ya bo atia ye no omo fa nkosi adan empim num 5000 e wi achie no sika nasa adan omo asi ni ho no endurum apem kura less than 1000 habitable homes sika no asa enunti ye kase John Mahama sese no waji NDC aboso a why na dwen se obedi o manim sebe onye obi a obetimi asakira yegina bre sese tini nsem na ya no wo kwa pro no a sa na pro bo na wode pri di bre wo abedi NDC fo anim no nsem ni bi ho ka ya na wode nchini atum kakra ya otai ka se election kura yewia no onu nkoa na oto sa anyom onu nkoa na oto sa anyom efse election we obi anim se eye fe pa ene ECOWAS fo hia wo winiba o ma fra electoral commissioner so on be bom enkire wo mo tie nra kwaksa fe e wo ho e kire ECOWAS fo kwan wo fa so eye election no ayen hyensude bi abeda ho ama ye mampanyi na nado wasi ni bo etimi ka kire wo mo se wo mo zum koye election no mo nyai so mo sisa mra o mo di o mo tusi akonwa so o mo mpese o mbesi fom no obia obeso oboke mam nke bia mam wo hu ban obia onim de kwa animu a wo som wo man ye to so aba na efe nti e wo so obia ye nhihye ya abato no be efe sa na o mampanyi na nado etimi agina ECOWAS mpanyimfo ani mu aka evi se aba na eto no 2020 no na emu hwam na efe enti ni wanya sa akokoduro no enya sa atumi no kasa sa na mom John Mahama nko ade ontie ode ne nam eboda wuro se yewia wako Supreme Court wa hanfa graphic kura hanko ango kire ekwan ye fa so a yewia wo atinte wuro na ade ko ne nam ho enso de nam bo apro he kansem kese sansem no kan ehwan kemam nka bia mamu ebre kemam nka bia mamu asi nti esrem onye obi a wo bibi muno bi fufuro bi ka kire yen ebesa kira aba sebe Ghana fo asetrem tibia yetimu no wontimi sisa no demom no ye Npp fo de ye se Ghana fo se de mu mahunu se biribia ye ba sakira ye ba no munya gidie wiye mu ye do adwuma na ye no ye bu Ghana fo ye dim se enwie peyo ye dim se ye enye ni nyina ama ho ye dim se ahokire wo ho titru covid ba yi na covid de bede na ahokire ma se bi wo ye adwuma wo hotel a na se ye ntu kwan emeda hotel ho a ye ntua wo ka nti asikotena fie ya ahokire bi aba wo so na ni nyina mu no aban emia nani aye nhihye ya ebepija economy nhihye ya aban ye edisi covid ano mampanyi na nado gidi wiase afa na nyina nti eba kendie eba abadaye eba batan a wo hwe Ghana so ama Ghana akọ n'anim a eye MPP edu nti ye hwese 2024 mo ba to akoso ne ya nante ye hwese 2024 sebe nanado na ne bere abawiye ne de obi muno abetena ho nso muno no ba papa na nanado ye ni nyina no eye MPP dia ye toaso na afi nipa foforo no oba no so onso de na dwene kese abeye nsakiraye a ehia so ye na sede ye hunu se bibia MPP fo ho a na o man na iko nanim yetimi atoaso saa enye saa wo ye wadwen se ene wo ho kirew wo ye wadwen se ene se bi covid enti eni niema ba ko mienu bi enti emebunu ya no mse online meboa omse online ye bibia wo online tu nim online no ene wiase no online na ekọ ene wiase no online enti ya sudie ya sedie ɛne sɛ obi a wɔntumi nkɔ online deɛ yɛnhyehyɛ ne yɛboa no no wɔkɔ hɔ ɛni sɛ yɛso da yɛsɛ yɛpɛ sɛ yɛsan yɛkyi ɛfisɛ yɛsan yɛkyi deɛ a deɛ ɛbɛsie ne sɛ yɛde ahisɛm ɛbɛwɔ akɔto aba bɔne ama ndc aba ɔba a reverse no kura ɔnhunu kɔ reverse ne kura no ɔde akɔtɔ dikyi mu ɔsan n'akyi ne kura no ɔbɛyera akɔtɔ dikyi mu yɛtumi mfi ani nto ɔmo so te yɛsrɛ ma obiara mfa amanyɔ mu ahisɛm ma obiara mfa ɛnɛ ahokyerɛ ɛnhwere daakye papa no a ɛɛba no ɛfisɛ yɛhyehyɛeɛ no a yɛɛyɛ no ɛkɔ n'anim ase yɛsi dan no yɛfa pem no dendenden apagya yɛflo afei yɛsan atoa so akɔ yɛnim 2 terms yɛflo yɛkɔ soro yɛsan atoa so akɔ yɛnim wogya si hɔ a ndcfoɔ ba a ɔmo san akɔ foforɔ ɔmo bɛgya deɛ ayɛ no nyinaa si hɔ ɔmo so ɔmfa adanhyia ɔmo bɛkɔ akotu na mu mmerɛ ɛfisɛ ɔmo nhunu adwuma no yɛ nti yɛne beresɛm awia yi a yɛde to mu anim ne sɛ ahoɔden no a yɛde yɛ kabimamenka bi no a ɛnɛ ada adi wɔ LGQBTI nkɔmmɔdie no ɛkɔ so no yɛpɛ sɛ yɛde saa ahoɔden no ɛkɔhyɛ yɛbɔtɔ mfa ahodeɛ sɛm ne yɛdosodoso mu ne yɛnyinaa yɛgye tom sɛ nneɛma bi wɔ hɔ a yɛntumi ntwa amanɔnefoɔ yɛntumi mmɔ bosea amanɔne ansa ne ayɛ deɛ yɛnyɛ yɛbɛtumi ayɛ ama yɛn ho no yɛnhyɛ aseɛ ɛnyɛ ɛma yɛn ho na ɛno na ɛbɛpagya yɛn ɛde akɔ bɔhyɛ asase no so na MPP deɛ ɛba bɔhyɛ asase no deɛ a yɛyɛ wo Moses ɛba bɔhyɛ asase no deɛ a yɛyɛ wo Joshua wode gyama NDC foɔ a ɔmbɛyɛ wɔ Caleb nti yɛfrɛ mu ha na yɛnkɔmmɔdi animudie ɛda mo ase pii menhyira mo